was quite a little, wow, what a good start. I've just waffled across about 4 different other videos, but I'm going to make this a standalone video for myself. I've just done some filming for Launch TV in America, and we're talking about the Lost Boys in that, Lost Boys 2 particularly, and then going into the third, how we ended up here. But also Watchers as well as a franchise, so watch out for them videos, no pun intended with that one. But what I didn't talk about in here is obviously I'm a big fan of the Lost Boys, and everyone's been saying, what do I think about the Lost Boys remake? And I had a waffle about this a while ago, but like, it is what it is when it was. We're in an era where people are running out of ideas, you know what I mean? And the evolution of all these new TV shows, and there's so much content out there. Everything is a remake of a remake of a remake. Everyone will be like, oh, that's a remake. Did you see that? And you know what I mean? Everyone can go, that's an original idea. But did you see that? Oh, that's original idea. It's a true story. How is that an original idea? It fucking happened. You know, the history of film and inspiration in that. I mean, one of the biggest things I say, but again, it's just a massive loophole of a circle. One of the biggest things you can get original ideas from is music, but then music's inspired by someone else, and that'll be inspired by everything's inspired by everything. So you can go, fucking hell, there's a Lost Boys remake. Right, there's a Lost Boys remake. That's it. There was a Lost Boys sequel, and then there was a Lost Boys 3. And people, to this day, even though Lost Boys 3 came out on the 12th of October 2010, go, there's a fucking third Lost Boys. Lost Boys is a trilogy. Yeah, so that completely missed people by. So anyway, I recently read the both graphic novels of the Lost Boys. One called Rain of Frogs, that's been around for a while. That fills in the void between Lost Boys 1 and Lost Boys 2. And The Lost Boys. This should have been called The Lost Girls. Simple as, because this is a continuation of the story. And both books, dibble dabble, both books, David's not dead because he just gets stabbed through the heart. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Grandpa's a vampire hunter. Saxophone man Tim Capello wants to be a vampire hunter. Yeah. There's also a lot more stuff going on underground in the caves. There's a lot more mythology being built around it. There's a lot going on. If they made a Lost Boys sequel in the 80s and early 90s, this is where this rant will go. Now, I'm just winging this. I haven't sat down and went, no, let's waffle. When they made this, in theory, another film was huge very quickly, and it was License to Drive. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, and one of the things they should have done with License to Drive is cast Jameson Newlander as the other friend in the movie and made them a triple act, because although The Lost Boys is a classic movie, you've got the older generation, the newer generation, you've got the filmmaking expertise of Joel Schumacher. We're not talking Gremlins. Told you I've been talking for a while. I ran out of tape. I was going to tell tape. It's digital card. Again, throw away a rant. Reply to your comments. Yes, I ran out of footage. Okay, so where was I? Sequel ideas for... Anyway, License to Drive came along. Big hit for the two Coreys. Two Coreys go off and they make Dream a Little Dream. Yeah, whatever. This is the right time to go, right, Lost Boys is a big hit, you know what I mean? VHS was massive at that point, distribution, teen fan club magazines, you know, again, one side you've got Kiefer Sutherland, you've got Jason Patric, Billy Worth, Alex Winter, Bill and Ted, you know, they're blowing up. Flip side, you've got the two Coreys and Jameson Newlander, Jamie Gertz as well, you've got all these people involved. And you go, right, let's do a sequel then, right? Two Coreys, get them involved. So you got the Frog Brothers and you got Sam. Jason Patric, to me personally, just disappeared until he turned up in Speed 2. You think, oh yeah, Lost Boys. I mean, Sleepless, fair enough, he had a big comeback at that era, but Jason Patric, Jamie Gertz could return. Jamie Gertz went on to be a Christmas tree, right? I'll just discover this. Thank you very much on YouTube for the people who pointed this out. Jamie Gertz went on to be a Christmas tree in Toys, turned up in Twister, and some point between that became a multi-billionaire. She's probably the only person I'm never going to meet to sign someone. But anyway, again, right? So, you can get focus on having the two Coreys back and the Frog Brothers, right? Grandpa might come back. Grandpa is a vampire hunter. It is left wide open. Just like Masters of the Universe and just like Flash Gordon. You leave it on a cliffhanger and you don't do fuck all about it. Okay, well done. So the idea is basically there's more than vampires. There's more than this clique. And again, it's established, the foundation's built. Use the comic book shop for a foundation, right? Bring in a girl. Bring the girls in, the Lost Girls, right? It happens that the girl is a lead vampire, probably has a buff henchman, one of them. Different kind of group, different kind of thing. Teenage, 80s pop. Like they're doing with License to Drive when they go to the parties like Mercedes lame and they're like talking about dumpstrucks and all kinds of stuff. That era, use that pop vibe. Get a bitchin' soundtrack. One thing about Dream a Little Dream, even though the film is absolutely bonkers, great soundtrack. So again, we're at that right hype, and at the turn of the decade as well. Even if Lost Boys 2 didn't go to cinema, it would have had a massive hit on VHS. So there's the foundation of the story. It's about the frogs and it's about Sam. And Luke would have still been alive, Grandpa's still there. Diana West might not come back, but again, it's like kind of like that time you could have just recast them. You know, it's not like at that time. Nowadays, they just write people off unless they're a really important person like War Machine. But like nowadays, they just write people off if they don't come back. Then they would just recast somebody. But that's the story. That's the setting. You know, there's a group of girls going around. The Frog Brothers. It could be the next town. Again, look at Jaws 2 and go, right, it's not as good as the first, but it's far better than 3 and 4. But it's not a bad film in its own right because the foundation was built. The techniques are there. With the Lost Boys 2, they're there. If you look at Joel Schumacher went on and do Flatliners, you know, Joel Schumacher comes back, makes it more darker, or do you get a different director on and give it that 80s slapstick comedy but still keep the horror element. There was a lot of up and coming directors. Look at how many people got their big breaks from like Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th. They were still pushing them out. You know, Warner Brothers just didn't capitalise on it enough to me. They don't like, again, look at how long the woofed and ward, I don't know what woofed and war means in any kind of language, but with Gremlins, they tried everything from the original Gremlins to go and, Joe, will you make a sequel, please, we'll do anything. And we get Gremlins 2, but we never get a Gremlins 3, but Gremlins 2 is one of the best sequels ever made because it knows what it is and flat out has fucking fun. For the time it was made, it embraces so much. And that's what the Lost Boys could have had. Again, we've waited all this time and we get Lost Boys The Tribe, and everyone's like, the fuck Lost Boys 2? Lost Boys The Tribe is a remake of the first film. And as I've just talked about it in a Dan's video on Slaunch TV, the biggest problem with the Lost Boys The Tribe is they went, right, we'll cast Angus Sutherland, the youngest brother of Kiefer, Donald's other son, who's quite creepy looking and not been in many films. He's been cast mainly because he's Kiefer Sutherland's brother. We bring in Autumn Reeser, nice shout. Couple of people you don't know, Tom Savini's in this. You bring back Tom G. Mack, you get Cry Little Sister, remixed again. You have Tom Savini in, but you don't embrace the practical. You do CGI and you think, why did you do that? Hasn't aged well in 10 years. It's not going to age well in 20 years. One of the best things about The Lost Boys, age phenomenally brilliantly. Phenomenally brilliantly. You know, and then, as I said before in the other video, which you haven't seen probably, the biggest problem is bringing Corey Feldman back into it because they bring Corey Feldman in, but they don't bring Jameson Newlander. And yes, Corey Haim, at this point, they were filming the two Coreys. Corey Haim apparently has a meltdown on set, causes ramifications of the ending. All the way through the movie, you've got the other vampires teasing that Alan's down here, Edgar and all this, and he's like, pop goes the fucking weasel with even more bad CGI. And, you know, this goes on for a while, right? The ending is the last time we ever see Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. Face off. Corey Haim looked great as a vampire. That's a nice twist. That's a great direction for the third film. Deleted scenes, even though Jameson Newlander gets a credit at the end of the movie, is Jameson Newlander looking unrecognisable in his car, heading to town to cause absolute carnage. The third film comes out at the time Corey Haim had not passed away. Corey Haim is not in it. Jameson Newlander isn't even on the front cover, and that's it. The Lost Boys are back. That is a glorified pilot for another film. It was kind of where the fuck were they going with that? It's like, that is the biggest problem with Lost Boys 2. Again, it's kind of like, make it fresh, make it different. But a remake, homage, I mean, I'll watch it. It's alright. It's not too bad. But there's the problem with the movie. It did alright. Warren tried to do a TV series and setting up werewolves and the Frog Brothers, and it's like an homage to Blade as well as Twilight, what was all going on there. But if they made the film back in the late 80s, going into the early 90s, at the peak of the two Coreys, Jameson Newlander, other upcoming stars in there, as I say, they could have cast a very good bunch of, I mean, Jennifer Aniston could have been the Lost Girl. In that time, you look at actors who were on the rise at that point, who would have, Brad Pitt, you know, Brad Pitt was going to be in, was it, I can never say him, boy, that was Phantasm 2, and then he wasn't, that would have been around the same year. Imagine if Brad Pitt was in Lost Boys 2 back then when he was young and the new leader, or not the leader, just like the third one that becomes famous. That was the time to make it, but again, just make it about another group in another town in the same kind of vibe, same kind of era, and then embrace the turn of the music into from the 80s into the 90s, and again get a young upcoming director, and then boom, Lost Boys 2 would have been golden, or call it The Lost Girls, simple. But yeah, so that's my waffle with a bit of a tape delay. This is me trying to wind down before I have to go and talk about a VHS camera and technical stuff. But if you haven't read these two things, get them read, alright? That is a really interesting spin on the story of what it could have been and, you know, where it's going, and that just fills in the void about where they're going with the movie. There's a really bitchin' bit with the vampires and, like, you know, I don't know, it'll be on for ages. This is going on about presidents and all kinds of stuff. That's how the third one starts, isn't it? Where they're protecting the president. There's a really good image in that book somewhere of one of the vampires taking on a werewolf. And I'll see you in the outtakes for a bit more waffle.
Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling?
Right, in the outtakes, here we go. What if stories? Grandpa and Home Alone. Yeah, what if stories. There's one story here. What if Grandpa? It's on the front cover. I see some great imagery in here of Jaws. I'm going to end up sitting down reading these again. These are really cool. Predator. He got an advert for a Predator in his book. The Dark Ages. I was trying to remember what that was called for ages. Yeah, that opened the door for Prey, like, didn't it? But yeah, if you get a chance to read these, this is spin-off stories about Die Hard of the Dead, twists and all turns, and, you know, Grandpa from the Lost Boys, and it's all about what if. I would say, what if Grandpa from the Lost Boys was a hunter as well? I don't know. Sorry, Mark and all the guys and Matt. But if you read them, you might see me, because I do appear, and I'm still on the run. Imagine if I turned up in the Lost Boys one. That'd be great. There's a hint for Matt and Mark when they're writing. Right, this waffle's over. This is a rant waffle. It's one of these new videos where I just go, but you know what? It's better than alcohol. See you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.